simply being unafraid and not worried about perceptions and not worried about what's going to be written or said, that is a competitive advantage. Welcome everyone to the Monday edition of Fair Territory. This is the week we have been waiting for, the week in which the baseball season officially begins. We had, of course, the 2 games in Japan, but these are the domestic openers coming up on Thursday. Obviously, we're all very excited for that. And we have some news to discuss in the first part of this show. And then I'm going to give you some of my picks. Now, of course, my picks every year are a source of great amusement for most of the people who read me and who watch me and listen to me. So I advise you to, of course, take the picks as seriously as you want to, which is to say, it's probably best not to take them seriously at all. But first, some news over the weekend. The big news coming out on Sunday. Kristian Campbell, one of the Red Sox big 3 prospects, is going to make the team as the starting second baseman. Now, this isn't really that much of a surprise. It's kind of been in the works for some time now, but it now explains why the Red Sox were never going to play Alex Bregman at second and Rafael Devers at third. No, it's going to be Campbell at second, Bregman at third, and Devers at DH. And this is the best alignment for them defensively. There's not much question about that. Kristian Campbell played a number of positions last year, and he is not necessarily an accomplished, skilled second baseman on the defensive end just yet. But he is a prospect the Red Sox have been excited about all winter long. They were talking about him even before they signed Bregman. They were talking about him playing a major role. So this is what the plan was all along. It's why the Red Sox never announced Bregman was going to play second after they signed him. It's because they wanted this to happen. Campbell at second, Bregman at third, and again, Devers at DH. A couple of more notes on Campbell. He's an interesting guy. He is a 4th-round pick, a compensation pick from 2023 out of Georgia Tech. Now, that was a 132nd pick overall. He actually was the player the Red Sox gained for losing Xander Bogaerts to free agency. They got a compensation pick, but it was only after the 4th round because, of course, they had exceeded the luxury tax, not a revenue-sharing recipient. That's the game. Well, they obviously drafted well. They obviously developed Campbell well. Here's a guy who had some swing questions coming out of college. They focused on ball flight with him, getting the ball in the air, and look what has happened. He is now their starting second baseman. So, big news out of Boston. Kristian Campbell is a guy I wrote about earlier this spring. He was mentored by D. Gordon, as was the other good prospect out of Georgia Tech, Chandler Simpson. D. Gordon is a guy who mentors a lot of young black players, and Kristian Campbell is a guy he has known, or a kid he has known, since he was about, 7 or 8 years old. Read the story. It's kind of a good one. It's actually my favorite story that I wrote this spring. Also in the news this weekend, the Cleveland Guardians. Now here's a team I wrote about in the Wind-Up in The Athletic on Monday. The Wind-Up is our free daily baseball newsletter that comes out every day starting last week. We do it a little bit less often during the offseason, but you can read it for free. You don't have to subscribe. You can just subscribe to the newsletter. And I wrote about the Guardians in this sense, that we don't look at them necessarily as a powerhouse. But since 2016, guess which team has the 4th most wins, regular season wins, in the major leagues? It's the Cleveland Guardians, behind the Dodgers, Astros, and Yankees. The Guardians are obviously a low-revenue team, but my point here is they always seem to figure it out. Tyler Freeman to the Rockies for Nolan Jones, a player that the Guardians originally drafted 2nd round 2016, if I'm not mistaken, and traded away to the Rockies a couple of years ago for Juan Brito, a player that could figure into their second base mix this year. So they get Jones back, and here's a guy who in 2023 finished 4th in the National League Rookie of the Year voting. 20 home runs, 20 stolen bases that year, and yet last season he regressed. He was hurt. He had a lower back issue for most of the season and just wasn't the same player. Seemed to lose confidence, at least in the Rockies' opinion. Then had a bad spring. Wasn't going to make the Rockies team. But with the Guardians, they see him as the strong side of the right field platoon. He's the guy who's going to play as a left-handed hitter against right-handed pitching. And they believe that he's going to offer them on-base percentage and more power. We'll see how it works out, but the Guardians, they forever operate on the fringes. And they had an interesting offseason. Remember, they traded Jimenez, their second baseman. They traded Naylor, their first baseman, Josh Naylor. This is coming off an ALCS appearance, and yet they're constantly churning, trying to figure out how to kind of just keep competitive, and they do an excellent job of it. Not every year. They're not in the mix every year. But again, since 2016, fourth in the majors in regular season wins. And here come the Cleveland Guardians again in an increasingly competitive AL Central. I would not be surprised to see any of the four leading contenders winning. I'm talking, of course, about the Guardians, about Detroit, Kansas City, and Minnesota. So that's going to be one really interesting race to watch all season long. We'll be back after a quick word from our friends at Foul Territory.
Life comes at you fast. Make life easier and healthier with Green Chef. Stay on track, even on your busiest days, with options like salads, ready in 5 minutes or less, and ready to blend smoothies.
You'll get pre-made sauces, pre-portioned ingredients to enjoy restaurant-quality meals for the #1 meal kit for eating well.
If you're like, wait, what about HelloFresh? Green Chef is owned by HelloFresh with a lovely array of meal plans to choose from. We love them both dearly. I switch between brands, and now our listeners can enjoy both brands at a discount.
Scott, I made the shrimp rice dish with corn and roasted cashews last night. It was fire. It came with a high-quality, organic, fresh produce that I love, so my whole family can eat clean.
Thrive all year with clean, easy meals from Green Chef. Go to greenchef.com/territory-free and use code territory-free to get started with free salads for 2 months, plus 50% off your first box. That's greenchef.com/territory-free and use that code territory-free.
Finally, also in the news, the Blue Jays. They extend Alejandro Kirk 5 years, $58 million extension. Here's a guy who had one more year of arbitration left after this one. And what the Blue Jays did was effectively buy out 4 free agent years. An executive over the weekend made an interesting point to me. He said, you never see catchers go to the market. They never become free agents. Never is a strong word, but he's basically right. JT Realmuto was the last big free agent catcher that we saw. Most of the other ones do get extended, and as we know, they're hard to find. Now, the Jays a couple of years ago were in a really interesting position. Remember, they had Gabriel Moreno, they had Kirk, of course, and they had Danny Jansen. So they traded Gabriel Moreno for Dalton Varsho, traded Jansen last summer. He subsequently signed with the Rays as a free agent. So Kirk was left as their guy. He is an excellent defender, framing, throwing, receiving especially. He's also a guy who won a Silver Slugger and was an All-Star in 2022. Hasn't hit that effectively since, but they believe with their new hitting coach, David Popkins, there's more in there. We'll see. Alejandro Kirk is now a Blue Jay into the next decade. How about that? Still Vladimir Guerrero out there as far as extension candidates for the Blue Jays. They want to get that done. I don't know that there's been any movement on that in recent days. Perhaps in the next few, we'll see something leading up to opening day. Not counting on it. And finally, some awful news over the weekend as well. Brett Gardner, the former Yankee outfielder, losing his son Miller, just 14 years old. The family was on a vacation. A number of family members fell ill, and Miller, for reasons that are still not known, died in his sleep. And Brett Gardner, for all Yankee fans and really all baseball fans, was kind of a model player. He was a guy who never really attracted attention off the field. He just played hard all the time. He had 2 sons. Miller was the younger of those sons. He's been married for some time. He's a guy who had dedicated himself since his playing career ended to his family. And for anyone who has ever lost a child, anyone who even knows anyone who has lost a child, there is really nothing worse. So our condolences go out to the Gardner family. The entire baseball world is mourning for him. Brett Gardner, we're all thinking of you and your family as well. Time now for the Inside Dish, the part of the show where I talk about maybe a story I've written, maybe a trend in the game. And this week, unfortunately for everyone listening and watching, I'm going to give you some of my picks. Not going to reveal all of them. I did that in The Athletic today. We had all of our supposed experts make their picks for the season, all 33 baseball contributors, and we'll see how they all turn out too. But I'm going to start off with 2 off-the-board categories, and then we'll get into some more traditional ones. Let's start off first with most improved player. And I'm going to go with a guy who a lot of people thought might be the rookie of the year last year. Team was very excited about him coming out of camp. He even drew comparisons to Mike Trout, body type, style of swing, that kind of thing. His name is Wyatt Langford. He didn't have the year everyone expected last year. Certainly wasn't a bad year. 740 OPS, missed some time with a strained hamstring. But here's a guy with all the ability in the world and someone that I feel is really ready to break out this year. I had some other guys I considered for this. One was Matt McClain, who's on the Reds, of course, their second baseman, who missed all of last year with an injury. He wouldn't be most improved because he was really good in 23, but he's someone to watch because I believe he's going to play a major role for the Reds this season. And I also thought about O'Neal Cruz. First full season in center field, maybe now freed of shortstop and able just to kind of focus more on his hitting and just being an athletic center fielder. He will become not just an exit velocity wizard, but a baseball all-star as well. We'll see. All right, that's my most improved player, Wyatt Langford. For my most improved team, I considered the Rangers because I do believe they're going to be a really good team this year. In fact, I'm picking them to go to the World Series. But picking a most improved player from one team and then picking that team as the most improved team, that's not all that fun. So I'm going to go with Matt McClain's team for the most improved team. That's the team with Terry Francona taking over as manager, the Cincinnati Reds. I like their rotation if it stays healthy. I like their position player club, though they've got some mixing and matching to do. I am worried about their bullpen, and they've got some questions there. Alexis Diaz is going to open the season on the injured list, but at the same time, I'm confident that Francona, like Bruce Bochy in Texas, through his years of experience and expertise, will figure out just what he wants to do with that bullpen, and they'll get eventually the right pieces in place. All right, National League Cy Young. I'm going with a guy who has finished second twice, has also been someone who received votes 2 other times. Finished second last year, and some people even thought he should have won the award in the National League over Chris Sale. Who am I talking about? Of course, it's Zach Wheeler. Zach Wheeler turns 35 this season, and yet he seems to be at the peak of his powers. And I'm quite confident he's going to have a good year, and of course, he is on a good team. So Zach Wheeler, my choice for National League Cy Young. American League Cy Young, going off the board a little bit here. Tarek Skubal, of course, is the chalk, the obvious choice. Garrett Crochet is going to get some attention preseason, at least, as well. But I'm going to go with a guy who led the major leagues in innings last year and was 4th in the majors in opponents' OPS, which is a stat that for pitchers I think is quite revealing. That guy is Logan Gilbert of the Seattle Mariners. He is entering his age 28 season. He is someone who seems to be getting better and better. He is on a staff, of course, that is extremely talented. And I just believe that this is the year he's going to take another step forward and become a legitimate Cy Young type. National League MVP. Now, my choice is someone who right now is not playing. And there's a little bit of concern about Mookie Betts because of all the weight he has lost with this mysterious stomach illness. He said to reporters on Sunday night that he has not been diagnosed with anything. He's just had this stomach virus. He's lost something like 20 pounds. I'm assuming at some point this is going to fade away, this illness, and he's going to get back to being Mookie Betts. He'll be playing shortstop this year. He's worked extremely hard at that position. And an up-the-middle infielder with Mookie Betts' offensive potential is a classic MVP candidate. So I'm going with Mookie for my National League MVP. Yes, even over his teammate Shohei Ohtani. And finally, AL MVP. A guy who put together a historic season last year and yet was not rewarded. Bobby Witt Jr. is my choice. He, in almost any other year in 2024, would have won American League MVP, but Aaron Judge had an all-time great offensive season. Now you might ask, don't you expect Aaron Judge to have another great offensive season? I do. But again, I'm going with the up-the-middle player. Judge was that last year, won't be that this year. And I just think that ultimately Bobby Witt, he is still getting better. He is still a guy with unbelievable ability and untapped potential. Yes, as good as he was last year, a 10-WAR player. I just see Bobby Witt this year taking yet another step and, yes, wrestling the MVP award away in the American League from Aaron Judge. So those are my picks. You can do what you want with them. I would suggest not taking them all that seriously. It's part of the fun. When the season starts, we all get to play expert and try to figure out what's going to happen. When the reality is, and the beauty of baseball is, we never know what is going to happen. Time now for Grillin Ken. Let's get to your questions. The first question comes from Switz, who asks, is AJ Preller a top 5 GM in baseball? Interesting question, no doubt. AJ Preller of the San Diego Padres has built that team into really a perennial contender. Top 5, I'm not sure I'd have him in the top 5. I would say Dave Dombrowski, Alex Anthopoulos, Chris Antonetti, Andrew Friedman, Eric Neander would be my top 5, not necessarily in that order. But AJ Preller is in the mix, and you can certainly make an argument that he is top 5. Now, the rap against him is some of those contracts are going to come due and they're going to have financial issues going forward. They're actually having some of them right now. Part of that is due to the ownership situation, of course, but they have awarded some monster deals and not all of them are going to work out well in the end and perhaps will hamstring them financially. But what I love about AJ Preller is that he is always aggressive. He is always trying to win. He is among the most creative GMs. There is no question about that. And he is a guy who is unafraid. And in this era, simply being unafraid and not worried about perceptions and not worried about what's going to be written or said, that is a competitive advantage because so many GMs today are concerned about losing a trade, making a bad move, any kind of misstep. AJ Preller fires away. So if he's not top 5, he's in the conversation, and I've got him there, among others. Next question comes from Daryl McGee, who says, if you could build a team around one young star under 25, who would it be? Well, Bobby Witt Jr. is the obvious choice. He is not yet 25, but I'm going to go with a less obvious choice because he's an interesting player, no doubt, and a guy who burst onto the scene last year. It could be Jackson Merrill, but I'll take Jackson Chourio, who's even younger than Jackson Merrill, and a guy that had a monster spring for the Milwaukee Brewers and just has superstar written all over him. Merrill is another guy, and you can certainly pick him in this category as well, among others. But Jackson Chourio, to me, is rather intriguing, and I'm going with him in part because of his age. All right, finally, let's see what the last question brings. This one comes from Timothy Kelly, who asks, any word on whether Nico Hoerner will be in the lineup for the Cubs against the Diamondbacks? And if not, how close is he to returning? Nico Hoerner on Friday played his first game of the spring, coming off right forearm surgery. And yes, the plan is for him to be ready for opening day. He took Saturday off, played Sunday as well. Maybe they'll decide ultimately he needs more at-bats, but he got a ton of at-bats in the minor league side when the Cubs were in Japan. He didn't go to Japan. So he obviously is a very pivotal player for the Cubs, a guy that they are counting on to be a huge part of what they try to accomplish this season. The expectation is, yes, he'll be ready quite soon. I want to thank everyone for their questions. Thank everyone for watching, for listening. You know where to find us. YouTube, Apple, Spotify. We'll be back Thursday with our normal Thursday live show, 10:30 Eastern, myself and Alana Rizzo. And I might as well mention my first Fox game coming up this weekend, Mets at Astros. Juan Soto for the Mets, Jose Altuve in left field for the Astros. Really looking forward to it. Have a great opening day, everyone, and a great week.
BetMGM first bet $1,500 offer when you use the bonus code FOUL. Get this offer when you download the BetMGM Sportsbook app or at BetMGM.com. Sign up, enter that bonus code FOUL, and deposit at least $10 into your new account. Place your first wager, receive up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if the bet loses. If it does lose, your bonus bets will be available once your initial wager is settled. Gambling problem or concern? There's help. Call 1-800-GAMBLER.